Hello, my name is Tim Gray, and I'm going to show you how to use the guided edit mode in Photoshop Elements to create a very cool out-of-bounds effect. We'll start with this snapshot of a young man getting ready to go surfing and transform it into this creative masterpiece. Well, actually, the best part is that we're going to have a lot of fun in the process. But also great is that Photoshop Elements will do all of the real work for us, and will even guide us step by step through the process. Let's get started. I'll choose the original image in the organizer, and then from the Fix tab I'll click on the pop-up and choose Guided Photo Edit. When I click this option, the image will be opened in the editor in the Guided Edit mode. In Guided Edit mode, as you can see, we have a list of options over on the right-hand side. These are all of the tasks that Elements can guide us through step by step. They include a variety of basic adjustments for our images, as well as some more creative effects. In this case, we'll scroll all the way to the bottom to the Fun Edits panel, and from there we'll choose Out of Bounds. Now we have a list of instructions over on the right-hand side, which will guide us through the process of creating this very cool effect. I'll scroll down a little bit so that we can see the details of our first step, which is to add a frame to the image. I'll click the Add a Frame button, and as you can see, a frame is automatically added to the image. Now in this case, I mostly want the surfboard to be sticking out of the frame, so I'll start off by dragging the left edge of this frame inward so that most of the surfboard is outside the frame. I also think it would be cool to have the surfer's head sticking out of the frame, so I can drag the top edge of the frame downward. I can then fine-tune the rest of the frame as needed. I can also get a little bit more creative by adding perspective. This helps to give a little bit of dimension to the image. I'll scroll down on our list of instructions, and as you can see, it even lets us know what the keyboard shortcut is for adding perspective. On Windows, that's the Control, Alt, and Shift keys held in combination, and on the Macintosh, that would be Command, Option, and Shift. Holding all three of those keys, I can then drag any of the handles on my frame. If we drag one of the handles along the edge, as you can see, we're just distorting the overall shape of the frame. If I instead adjust one of the corners, I can make this image appear as though it's tilting away from me. So I'll drag the top left corner downward, and right about there looks to be pretty good. Of course, now I need to fine-tune the frame, for example, dragging the top edge upward just a little bit so it's closer to the surfer's head, and maybe dragging the bottom edge downward so we're including more of the colorful shorts here. Once you're happy with the shape of the frame, you can simply click the check mark at the bottom right corner to apply the changes. The next step is to adjust the frame width. This applies a white border around the outside of our image, which gives it a bit of a retro snapshot look. I'll go ahead and adjust the size of this frame just a little bit, making it a little bit larger around the outer edge of our image here. That looks pretty good, so I'll go ahead and click the check mark button to move on. As you can see at this point, we have a pretty good preview of what that final effect might look like. Scrolling down, we find that the next step is to select the extension area in our image. In this case, that means the surfboard and the surfer's head. So I'll click the button to choose the Quick Selection tool, and then, starting inside the frame, I'll click and drag across the surfboard. It's important that you include a part of the object that is both inside and outside the frame in order to produce the most accurate results. It's also important that you create a complete selection of the area that you're working on so that the effect looks as realistic as possible. In this case, that means making sure that the entire area of the surfboard that extends outside the frame, as well as part of the surfboard that extends inside the frame, is included in that selection. And let's not forget our surfer's head. We'll click and drag across his head, making sure all of it is selected, and once again that selection extends into his body in order to ensure the most accurate results. At this point, I think we have a good selection, so we'll scroll down to the next step, which is to create our out-of-bounds effect. I'll click Create Out of Bounds, and as you can see, we've produced a very cool effect. Now we can use the Stylize options to really make this image pop. I'll go ahead and click Large to add a large drop shadow. Actually, maybe that's a little bit too much. I'll go ahead and click Medium instead. Yeah, that's much better. That's giving our image quite a bit of depth now. I can also add a gradient behind our overall image. When I click the Add a Gradient button, you'll see the New Layer dialog appears. I'll go ahead and accept the default settings by clicking OK, and then choose a gradient from the pop-up. In this case, I'd like something reminiscent of a golden sunset, so I'll choose this orange to yellow gradient. Closing the gradient pop-up, I'll then change the style from radial to angle. That's looking pretty good, so I'll go ahead and click OK. Now at any time, if you feel you're not producing a great result, you can always click the Reset button at the bottom of the guide to go back to your starting point and try again. But in this case, I think we've produced a fabulous result, so I'll go ahead and click the Done button. At this point, we've finished the out-of-bounds effect, but I want to switch to the full edit mode to show you how much work Elements has really done in order to produce this effect for us. That's a lot of work going on behind the scenes, but for us, it was easy. And we can even edit the final result working with this layered document. For example, at this point, I feel that our gradient is competing with the main subject here, so I'd like to tone it down a little bit. Clicking on the thumbnail for my gradient fill layer on the Layers panel, I'll go to my opacity control at the top right of the Layers panel, and click that pop-up and drag the slider to the left. I'll set it to somewhere around 50%, which will reduce the intensity of those colors, giving it a more muted effect. I can also crop the image. I'll choose the crop tool and then click and drag to define a basic crop box. In this case, I don't need so much space over on the right-hand side, so I'll drag that edge inward, and I can also drag the top edge downward a little bit, and that's looking much, much better. I'll click the check button to finalize the effect, and there you have it. If I do say so myself, this one is ready to put on a postcard.